Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Fixing Philippine Payroll, What HR Needs to Get Right in 2026. My name is Dinali from People's HR, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. Payroll is one of HR's most important responsibilities, but also one of the most challenging issues. Even after years of digital transformation, many teams are still facing the compliance updates that outspace systems, disconnected tools, and manual processes that drain time and morale. And that is why we're here to talk about how to finally get payroll right, making sure it's accurate, compliant, and sustainable with the help of smart HR tech. Joining me today are very two amazing speakers that we have. So let me now take the time to introduce them to you. Our first speaker is Ms. Gix Patanao, CHRO at Hi-Ho Resources Corporation. With more than 30 years of HR leadership across FMCG, manufacturing, retail, and BPO, Gix has a reputation for transforming HR into a true business partner. She's led cross country process migrations, built centers of excellence, and continues to champion people focused HR strategies that deliver results. Next up, we have Riazi, Director of Sales and Partner Management at People's HR. With over 15 years of experience from global leaders like Microsoft and HSBC, Riazi now works closely with organizations across industries to design HR solutions that really work in practice. He has deep expertise in helping HR teams overcome payroll challenges and drive digital transformation with confidence. Here's how our session today will flow. We'll start with insights from Gigs, followed by Riazi, who'll jump into a Q&A session, followed by a small description of People's HR. And throughout the session, please feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A box below. And finally, we'll wrap things up with our much-awaited giveaway. So be sure to stay till the end. So now, without further ado, let's get started. Gigs, the floor is yours.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Just so I know there are live people in the session, can we get a thumbs up or something in the react portion? Oh, hearts, how nice. I asked for thumbs up, I get hearts. Thank you. Okay. Good. So this afternoon, we're going to talk about the thing that we love and hate the most. Love because we get money at the end of it, and hate because to get to the love, you have to go through hell most of the time. So that's why it's called the recurring pain point in HR, not just actually in the Philippines, but all over. So next slide. So in 2025, here's our reality. Payroll errors affect 1 in 4 employees worldwide. And that's largely because if not the whole process is manual, some or portions of it are. So the more manual intervention, the more the possibility of errors. And then another is that Excel-based payroll can take up to 80% longer to process than automated systems. So we know that Excel on its own is also already some sort of a tech intervention for payroll, but at most it's a low tech way of doing payroll. And yes, processing is longer. And then of course there's data fragmentation. What do we mean by this? We get our timekeeping from a different biometric system. We do our overtimes and leaves applications in another system. And then we do calculations in another system. And then we try to tie it all up together and hope that at the end of the day, there are no tax refunds or tax deductions that happen at the end of the year. So accuracy is always a big issue when we do payroll. So, and then of course, and this is something, if you've been in this business as long as I have been, there were days that I recall during our early days in HR when payroll is the only thing that you do for months, week in, week out. There's no break. You just finish payroll for the 15th, you're starting payroll again for the next, and then errors are just way too many. These days, of course, it's not as bad, but there are still organizations who do payroll for, weeks. And then if you do deliver payroll, it's not real time. It's a month or a period delayed. So, there's a lot that can be said about having to automate payroll and doing it right. Because just because you automated, it doesn't mean that you're doing it right. So that has to go hand in hand. So given these 4 points, I'm just curious though, you can do this in chat. Any one of you who has 1, 2, 3, and 4, or just 1 or 2 or 3 or 4? Can you do that for me, please, in chat? Which one is your particular issue for your payroll? It'd be interesting to see. And this is how we do scientific surveys. I'm just kidding. But it'd be interesting to see which one is your particular pain point. Can we see what's in chat? Which one is yours? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Because for me, it's really largely 3 and 4. Mostly data fragmentation and then no automation at all. That's the biggest in 2025. Because if at least you have Excel, that's good. We just have to move out of Excel and into something better. Okay, next slide. So all of these 4 issues together, of course, you get what? Compliance whiplash, constant recalculations, penalties, delayed contributions. If even that, there are some organizations who are still even doing reconciliations of years prior for their penalties and delayed contributions. And of course, the integration gaps, disconnected tools, endless recon, and the biggest cost being the human cost. HR burnout, employee distrust, and rising attrition. Now, if there's one thing, like just recently we did an engagement survey here where I am in Iho, and I always already expect that payroll's the lowest rated portion of the survey. And I was very surprised that people had no issues with payroll because for them, as long as it arrives every 15th and 30th, they were happy. But the moment it gets delayed, even just one day, you lose so many people. And you think that you've done them a big mistake that's irreconcilable just one day. So that's how very sensitive the human cost of payroll is if you don't do it right. Next slide, Binali. Now let's talk about HR burnout. So sure, we talk about the cost of attrition being because payroll getting delayed, but what about for us HR folks who do the payroll processing? So there are late nights, triple checking, and then of course the chasing approvals. Just curious also, how many approvals does your payroll process have? Can we be honest? Three approvals before the final approval. How many approvals? Anyone? You can type your message in the chat if you want. Because I just want to see how many approvals does your payroll go through before it finally hits the bank.
On an
3 or
average,
4?
on an average, I can see a lot of threes gigs on the answers.
Lots of 3s, yeah. And then how many days? So, I mean, wouldn't it be nice if we can do payroll in just like 2 days? Wow. It's possible because, this is very exhausting. And of course, exhaustion, what? Creates mistakes. We're human. And when there are mistakes, there are complaints, then there's distrust. And of course, that leads to attrition. And then 75% of payroll pros report stress and overtime. Because here's the other thing, and this is my pet peeve as an HR professional. They don't get mad at their bosses, they get mad at HR. And the bosses are just so happy enough to pass it off to HR. If they think there was something wrong in the calculation, they say that, oh, talk to HR. Not really, remembering, all of a sudden forgetting that they're the ones who approve the overtime, they're the ones who approve the leaves, or they're the ones who disapprove the overtime. So, but HR gets to answer for it. How nice. And then, so that adds to the burnout for HR. And who wants to handle that? And then, of course, turnover. I don't know if you checked in your organization, but where in your HR team is the highest turnover? You will see that it's in payroll. Because of course there are some who, because they see the salaries, they'll feel bad if they compare to theirs. They shouldn't be doing payroll in the first place if it has that effect on them. But the other reality is that the processing and the stress of having to deal with a very inefficient process and then very irate employees, it's a bad combination of things. And of course, you'd want to get away from that. And mind you, payroll is supposed to be what? A backroom support process. So why is HR backroom stressing about things that are not theirs? So isn't that a big question? So the other question I'd like to throw to the group is, can your line managers explain payroll to their direct reports? If a direct report of your different line managers go up to them with their payslip and ask them to explain the items on their payslip, will they be able to? Or will they say the magic phrase of go to HR? Of course, we all know what the answer to that question is, right? So, and that adds to the burnout. Okay. Oh, someone saying chat is disabled.
I think they can use the Q&A box to put the answers.
Oh, and they're saying that volume's low.
Just let us know if the same issue is there in the Q&A. We'll continue and see what we can do.
Okay. So yes, according to an anonymous attendee, the managers are accountable too, since they were the ones who did not approve the overtime. It's tiring to explain sometimes. So there you go. It is tiring. So what do we do then? So next slide, Inali. So to have a very future-ready payroll, these are the four things that we need to keep in mind. Of course, accuracy. It's always been a need. 99% is not acceptable. It has to be 100%. Why? Although most quality systems, ISO and all of that say there is no 100%, it's always just 98%. 98% is good enough. For payroll, no. It should be 100%. Anything less than that, one employee will say foul. And you only need one employee to say that to get a big issue going. So accuracy should always be 100%, every cutoff, error-free. And then, of course, compliance. Because especially us, we're very regulated by Department of Labor, the labor standards. So at any point in time when Dole walks into our establishments, we should be ready and proud to open our books to them and say, hey, I'm doing payroll right, or open our system. Because we already know that even Department of Labor has already been trained on how to look into the various HR information systems that are out there. So we have to be ready, compliant all the time, every time. And then, of course, there should be transparency. Employees and leaders share the same truth. Because, like, for instance, if face-to-face an employee and a leader agree that, okay, this is your agreed overtime for this period, and then you turn and the leader turns around and tells HR that I'm only approving this. And then at the end of it, you refuse to face your employee. Rather, you tell the employee, go talk to HR. You and I had a discussion that this was approved, but HR processed this. Dangerous game to play. And then, of course, there's scalability. Sure, you can start at 50 employees, but your system should be able to scale high and scale fast. Should there be a ramp in your operations where you'll need to add in more people at any given point in time, or even when you tighten operations and you need to scale down, your system should be able to handle that without, choking. So these four things are what's needed for us to be able to do a very efficient and very agile payroll processing that doesn't burn out both HR and the employees. So for 2026, compliance plus integration, of course, we're saying that we stay proactive. Monitor SSS, Pag-ibig, PhilHealth, and BIR continuously. Now, before you all have anything to say about that, I will say something. We're not meaning here the issues that these government mandated agencies have done, this mindless automation of their system that is leaving us very frustrated. What we're meaning here is that if you have a good system that does compliance and integration very well, then you'll have more time to do the analysis that's needed. You don't need to do the filing and the whatever because government has already said, oh, let the employees do their own filing. They have built their own accounts, not anymore the employer, fine. But since we still monitor contributions, we still monitor availments of their benefits, then now we can stay proactive by being able to use the data from all of these transactions and doing good analysis and find trends so that we can be of better service to the employees. Now, as to the other issue of the system of the government, maybe we'll schedule a forum with the government now to address that. But right now, we're just saying that hopefully with a good system, we can now have time to analyze SSS, Pag-ibig, PhilHealth, and BIR transaction numbers and come up with some information that is good for management decisions. And then we automate statutory updates instantly to avoid missed cutoffs. Because this is a other thing. We thought that we paid, we're up to date with our BIR payments, and then, but what happens? Oh no, we missed the other cutoff in the last quarter. Because we don't have, automatic updating. So we get to miss cutoffs. And you know how these statutory benefits are. You miss one, penalties are on the way, just right there, so quick. So unless you have a really good relationship with these government agencies, you will have a good relationship with penalties. And that's not good. Then the other thing is we can unify data, attendance, OT, leaves, without re-entry. And this is the thing, because this is also human behavior. We know this. And that's why we have what? Special runs of payroll, because, oh, they forgot to file. They did the OT on this, whatever, this period. And then payroll's already closed for this cutoff. Oh, but the line manager is fighting that you should include this because I approved, but they filed delayed. Oh, but then let's just have special run for payroll. Or, oh, this is a mistake. This included this. So we redo. That's another thing that, you know, irritates HR. So hopefully we get a system that, you know, can do without re-entry. And then, of course, enable cross-department visibility. Because one of the things that HR and finance and IT need to be integrated on when they look at data is actually payroll data. Because from an HR perspective, its adherence to salary structures and the cost of the structure. For finance, it's manpower cost. And of course, for IT, it's accuracy of data and process. So these three together should be able to have one view, not three different views. IT is looking at one thing, HR is looking at another. It should be the same data shared, telling them input and insight real time at the same moment, at the same live data, not patches of information being shoot into from Excel, one from another information avenue. It should be live data. And then, of course, we want a system that treats every cycle as audit day, not just year end. So self-audit is part of it. Because in some of our processes, what do? Before we finalize payroll, we send it back and say, okay, this is what we're going to process. If this is already approved for you or this is acceptable, send it back to us and then we will process. So that takes what? Another 2 or 3 days. And then after you finalize payroll and gets approved, then you have another week of doing payroll reports. And then you still have to like work with finance to see that your pay register is the same numbers as your finance reports. So here, hopefully we have a system that can do all that because there is visibility between HR and finance that this can be done. Audit is done as you process. So no extra movement in one process. It's also audits also being done. So at the end of the year, less of the tax deductions and tax refunds, just 100% accuracy. Because when we say payroll accuracy, we don't just mean payroll accuracy every 15th and 30th. We're meaning even the tax deductions are correct. Even if an employee enters an organization in the middle of the year, because that's what we do. We know that if an employee enters in the middle of the year, not really at the start of the year, we already know. We tell ourselves already, oh, they're probably going to get a tax refund because they did not do the full year. I mean, that to me is very inefficient. So when you say payroll accuracy, even that, no tax deductions, no tax refunds. It's everything is just accurate from start to finish. So this is what we want to happen in 2026. Less of the nitty-gritty, less of the manual intervention, but more of the speed processing and controls in place and more analysis towards the end. So what are the human costs that we want taken out in 2026? Of course, the recurring tasks, like the loans, allowances, because that can be very repetitive. And then, of course, the pre-payroll validation, which I talked about earlier, where you have to send data to one group and then wait for it to come back and all of that. And normally, let's be real. Sometimes because of the very tight timelines, they don't really check. You just do spot checks. You don't really get to check very thoroughly because you know that you're following a tight timeline. So you just do spot checks and call it good. And that's why we get errors. So hopefully that part of the process is minimized or taken away. Another thing is the employee self-service for payslips and contributions. They should be able to do this for themselves without having to, like, go to HR. One of the things that, if there are people from EHO here, they know, and people who have worked with me before, if you're in the audience, you know that I don't like transaction counters in HR, because the employee self-service portal, that's what it's there for. You don't go to HR and ask them to print your payslip and ask them for a list of their contributions when they can do it themselves. So HR's role is to educate on how to use a hopefully very easy system to follow. And there's a feature in what Riazi will talk about that I'm very excited for you guys to see. Because when I saw that it could be done, I got excited. So that's something for you to look forward to later. But that's what we want. Less HR firefighting. And of course, the other thing is that faster payroll schedules reduces stress. And of course, that means better retention for HR, happier people in HR, because they're not spending most of their time just processing payroll. And that means reduced burnout. So lower attrition cost in your HR team. So with that, Rias is ready to take questions.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks. That was quite insightful, quite interesting. I mean, getting to hear a little bit of what you call pain points and all that, which actually is like real, what we actually face on a day-to-day basis. So, I mean, definitely the Q&A is open, chat is open. The participants can definitely actually post all their questions. But before I, what you call participants actually start asking questions, I have few questions for you. Just thought that I should ask this. I know you have a bit of experience on both ends, like looking at payroll outsourcing perspective as well as on a client's perspective. What do you think are some of the most, what do you call, irritating points you would say, as probably for a payroll outsourcing company also when it comes to actually getting information on payroll? That was for you, the question.
Yeah, I'm
Thinking.
wait. Yeah. Well, most of the well, my pain point right now when I do payroll, especially where in the industry, let's just say, because EHO is largely agribusiness, and um, a lot of our employees are tech averse. Let's just say, to be kind. Um, Not everybody has access to technology, and when you say an app, they don't understand what an app is. If you're lucky, they'll have a gadget, but not everybody has a smart gadget. And then you tell them, oh, go operate in the kiosk. And that's another tech area where they're very averse. They see a computer and they're like, oh, nope, not gonna happen. So to me, even beyond the processing, it's getting people to get engaged in the technology itself. That's the biggest issue for me. Because if I get past that, everything else would be easy. Because now it's just a matter of telling them, okay, when you want to file for leave, this is what you do. If you want to file for where your benefits or whatever, this is where you go. I I can't even get there because, like I said, the tech aversion is so high. And I don't know if there are other people in the audience who have the same issue where, especially I'm sure some of you felt it when the government mandated benefits became online all of a sudden without warning. And all of a sudden, the employer's not allowed to do the transaction for the employee anymore. So, and there was a big assumption there that everybody knew what technology was, that everybody knew how to work technology. And it was a very dangerous assumption to make. So, yes, somebody just said automation is on our wish list. Yeah, it is. But like I said, you have three choices: high tech, low tech, or no tech. So your call right now, us, because we're an enterprise, some portions of our business is no tech, some portions are low tech, and some are high tech. It really depends on the level of tech savviness of the organizations.
Thank you, Gigs, for that. Uh, Also, Gigs, like when it comes to areas like when it's submitted for payroll processing, I mean, I'm sure you would have come across enough situations of data not being complete. You
Yeah.
know, multiple times it goes back and forth. I mean, you did highlight some compliance risks and all that. Any other risks what you see which can actually pose trouble in terms of getting things done on time?
This is more of an audit issue because Department of Labor has always said that as much as possible, deductions that they will allow in payroll are just the statutory deductions, and um, all other deductions should be covered by what we call an authority to deduct, signed by the employee. And when that thing gets into the whole mix, oh yeah, you get into a lot of uh, issues. Like for instance, cash advances that are not liquidated on time. There's a document that an employee signs that says, if I don't liquidate on time, I will be automatically deducted the unliquidated portion or whatever. And sometimes people forget that they signed that. And then, when they see it, they'll start questioning it, and then even the immediate superior gets involved, and now it's become an issue. So you get told now, oh, return that in the next payroll. Like, no, because that's also policy, But so those are the ones that are, to me, more painful, because errors you can easily explain, like uh, a missed leave filing or disapproved OT and all of that. Somehow that, although that's an irritant, that's easy to explain, especially if you talk to the HR business partner and say, confirm this, that then they take care of it. But if it's like that, the cash advances, unliquidated stuff, that gets pretty gnarly when it's implemented.
Yeah, any questions from the audience to give? I think we have one question. Um, should deductions for medical insurance employee share a benefit be authority to deduct as well?
Benefits normally are allowed in deductions as long as you can show to Department of Labor that the company is not earning or profiting from the deductions. That's allowed because why were they being very cautious about this? Because before, if you recall, those who have been in HR long, the banks offered loans through payroll a lot. And the company became the collection agency for the bank. So the bank was paying the company X% for every collection. And that was done through payroll. So that was frowned upon by Department of Labor. So that was discouraged and eventually stopped. And that's why the first directive from Department of Labor at that time was no form of deduction at all. So it has relaxed a little bit now with the authority to deduct, but again with another condition that it isn't to the profit of the employer. So yes, you can do medical insurance as long as you can prove that. Some of you are shocked, but yes, those things happened in the early days.
And it's definitely shocking to hear that. That's some good inside gigs. And then there's one question for you. I mean, actually, this is for your thoughts, actually. So what Mark is asking here is that whether we can actually push our people and the company culture to be digitally agile and ready to adopt demands of automation. Uh, yeah, so that's like the question, Gig. What are your thoughts on that?
You can't push, you can influence. Okay. When I gave my talk in PMAP, what I kind of got the same question. How do you convince management that automation is the way to go? And see, here's my thought about that. HR, we have always had the numbers, you know. I mean, we've been doing numbers for the longest time. We just like to pretend that we don't. But now in this age where numbers is really the thing, we need to acknowledge that numbers is part of our game. And we have those numbers. We have head count, we have leave availments, we have all of these numbers. We're just doing it manually. Now, what I told that guy when he asked me was that give them a taste. Even if it's difficult to get there because you're doing it manually, give them a taste. And then once they get the taste of what having these numbers, the information that you get out of it, having that taste, they'll say, oh, can we also find out this and that and this? You just smile and tell them, we can. If we were automated, you know, they have a taste now. So they'll want more. So, it's like a courtship. For those of you who are courting people or have already married whoever you courted, it takes time and effort. You can't just say, oh, because it's everyone's doing it. Like I said, either you're no tech, low tech, or high tech, that depends on your organization. What is your strategy? To just say that automation is the way to go, if you tell me that I'm the CEO, I will ask you, why do you say that? And if your answer is because everyone's going in that direction, there has to be a business justification why you think that's important. So what is your business justification? That's why I'm saying HR of this century should be very numbers driven.
Thanks, Keith. I think we can take one last question. There's one question for People's HR. I'll probably address that during my presentation. But the other question, I think it's important as well. With payroll involving sensitive employee data, what measures should companies strengthen in 2026 to ensure compliance with data privacy laws?
Yes. First of all, do you already have your data privacy officer? And are you already registered? Because if not, then maybe you should work on that first. Because it's not easy to get registered. And then once you're registered, there's a whole long list of documents that you need to comply with, like templates that you have to have, like even your application forms should carry disclaimers, privacy disclaimers, even everything that's HR related, especially because we carry the personal data. It will have to be covered with all of the required data privacy statements. Even your employee contract should carry all of that already. So when you also choose a technology partner, that's one of the first questions that you're going to ask. You're going to have to ask them. Because like, for instance, I know that some providers don't really have a local presence. They're like based in Singapore, they're based in, And one of the things that data privacy frowns on is if your data crosses borders. They're very antsy about that. So as much as possible, you make sure that they have data storage here, even if it's cloud. Where is it located? It's located in Singapore. That's kind of frowned upon, although they're not really saying outright that you can't do that. But they're more comfortable if your data storage, whether cloud or otherwise, it's located in the in country rather than out, because that's personal data. They want to safeguard that. And like I said, everything in HR has to go through all the things that's in the data privacy law. More than any other function in the organization, it's HR, because of the personal data that we carry, including the number of year storage of your 201 files and how you store it. The how is going to be expensive.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks for all that answers what you gave. I'm definitely sure that it's very insightful for our participants. So what I will try to do is I'll try to see if I can quickly finish off my part of the presentation and see if we do have any time left, because I think we have a referral draw also from Denali, so that we don't miss out anything. So
Yeah.
Just wanted to highlight, I think there are some interesting questions around payroll, whether we can actually cater to some of the unique requirements, organizational requirements. I wouldn't say it's just organizational. There's a lot of unique requirements in the Philippines itself, like if you take the statutory part as well. So, I mean, this was an interesting case study. I mean, very closer to my heart, because, see, I met this customer almost about 6 years ago. I mean, it was a very random, what do you call, meetup back in our development center in Colombo. So when I met them, so I mean, they just got to know that we do actually have. I mean, we were what do you call, a fully end-to-end HR solutions organization, and they wanted to just have a look at the system. So this was an introduction. So we actually made sure we actually showed our system. And the first question was, I mean, we didn't know that this kind of a system existed. I mean, I was like, okay, fine, you do have end-to-end systems, but what was missing? So interestingly, because see how complex, if you look at what you call Philippines payroll, because see, everyone looks at, when you say payroll, it's payroll is basically what does everything. No, it's not, because it's an entire process which actually interlinks as to what provides data to the payroll. That's what is important, because see, if you don't have those in place, basically you're not going to get the maximum output or efficiency out of payroll. So for an example, so if you look at people's HR for as a solution, it's not only a solution what we bring, it's also a practice, because we do actually have some best practices operating across 40 different countries, about 1,700 customers. We bring certain efficiency into the organization through the system. Sometimes, you've been doing something, and I mean, it's sometimes it's not absolutely logical. It's just that, you've been used to it. So we try to actually help you improve that. So what we did was, with SMHGT, we actually automated some of their routine HR tasks in terms, instead of them having to do this, we actually made sure that the system actually took care of them. Uh, and some of the inefficient data management and reporting processes, because sometimes the data is available once you actually get this process right. For an example, if you are getting your attendance data correctly into the system actually starts processing this, and system is able to give you that accurate insight data, the management, what do you call, strategy, all this actually comes from the system. So I mean, starting from maintaining your 2 own files to everything, we were able to support them in doing that. And what do you call, the HR team now? See, it's a common what do you call, perceptions in that HR team. Most companies actually have to do their attendance and payroll part, but it's not true. HR is there to do a strategic job. They have much more things to do when it comes to the employee strategy of an organization to grow, rather than just sitting and doing that bits and pieces of admin work. So basically we actually made sure that we looked after that compliance part and that, what do you call, day-to-day activities, while HR actually focused on the more strategic area. So how did it help? So if you look at my next slide, so this actually made a major transformation within SMSGT. Dinali, if you can go to the next one. Yeah. So I mean, basically the payroll processing time, I mean, I mean, I'm not sure why we are even talking about a day or two. Basically, payroll processing should be just few hours of work because end of the day, you've got all the data coming into the system. You have your practices and policies in place. Basically, you should be able to run a payroll process easily. And then the attendance and what do you call payroll accuracy. Now, see, if you look at here, we have actually put it separately, attendance and payroll, because the reason is if you look at attendance itself, there's like multiple things to consider. Now, let me bring few scenarios into the context of Philippines. Now, I've actually had the opportunity to work with hundreds of what do you call companies already in Philippines, like companies in retail, agriculture. I mean, various different practices. So, like, if I just start with few. Now, if you look at most of these companies now, I mean, if you take a retail or even agriculture company, most of these companies will not only have an office in Manila. So they will actually have what you call officers in different places. Now, I mean, I'm basically today in Ortigas. I mean, closest to me is Quezon City. So you have the last time I was here, we had the Quezon City Day. Few days before it was the Makati Day. So likewise, you have different special holidays popping up on different areas, and you have sudden announced special leaves which are coming up. And think of the what do you call trouble you have to go through in terms of actually going and changing people's shifts and corresponding shifts. Now, if you take hospitality for an example, or even companies who actually have what do you call midnight crossovers. Now, you have these organizations which follows these graveyard swing shifts and day shifts, right? So when that happens, what happens is the corresponding day is actually a preceding day is a holiday or a special holiday which is announced. The entire OT computation changes. Now, you having to go and change that individually for employees, or having to change the roster is like a headache. But instead, you actually, if it's what do you call announced as a special holiday, you just mark it in a calendar saying it's a special holiday, and the system actually understands and does the computation, really changes that ball game. So the accuracy automatically improves. So you don't do anything, you just make sure that those are marked. That's it. So the system takes care of the entire thing, and automatically from that attendance data, the payroll just flows in and actually what do you call looks after that part. And I've also heard, like I mean, we in the statute, when I actually go back and see. So if you look at what you call area to area, you actually have these rates which are defined, daily rates for employees. If you look at Manila, there's a specific daily rate which is supposed to be paid for certain grades of employees. So and then I've heard this specific word like pakeao. So basically, that's like a daily rate
Daily paid, yeah.
pay. Yeah. So for employees who actually does this, so that's a lot actually which is actually available for you to practice. So you need somebody who can actually depend in terms of knowing this, because see, if you have to come and tell us what we need to do, that's a problem. As a vendor, we need to be able to uh, what do you call when it comes to uh, adoption now, digitalization. So this was a major topic before AI. So how do you digitalize? You have to actually make sure you empower your employees to start using. So how do you empower? I'll actually go to my next slide. I'll give you a small hint as to what you can actually do. So before I go on to all the other areas, I like to talk about Lexi. Now, Gigs actually brought up a very interesting point. She was actually talking about things that she liked about this AI. Now, SHR. I've actually been to, I mean, few days back I was in Clark, but on my previous visit to Clark, I actually went to one of these companies and I saw that there's a small window where you have an HR department, and that's where employees actually come and ask for information. I
Transaction
mean,
counter.
yes. So I mean, it was quite surprising because the reason is why does actually employees either have to come to HR or HR needs to go to employees, when you can actually empower employees to actually have a HR assistant for each employee. Now, I'll give a specific scenario here. So we'll assume that there's this employee who has actually got paid less on his traveling allowance. I'm just giving a very what you call random scenario. Now, what happens is you already have your configurations, what you call defined in the HR system, and HR system already knows how the computation was actually made. Now, if this employee comes and says, look here, I'm supposed to get 2000 pesos as my traveling allowance, but I've only got 1000 pesos. Why is that? Now, what's the usual practice? Imagine the workload. The HR person has to go run a report, try to understand where the, what do you call, how many days the person has come to work, what are the rates which is being paid, and actually, do that computation and get back to the employees. Probably 1 or 2 days of turnaround time. Now, instead, imagine a situation, you just go to Lexi, you actually ask, I was supposed to get paid 2000 pesos as transport allowance this month, but I only get paid 1000. And immediately the bot is able to actually answer without a single person actually getting involved, saying that you have only come for this number of dates to the organization, and if you look at the computation, this amount multiplied by this is why you are paid 1000. The case is closed immediately. So you actually get rid of thousands of work in one go. So this is how AI will help employees, because it's not only for admins to actually get better at what they're doing, efficiency. There's a lot which comes there, but at the same time, how employees will interact and get their day-to-day things done without having problems. And answering to the question in terms of unique requirements of organization, yes, we definitely can support, because People's HR is a system which has been in the industry for the last 28 years. So there's a lot of practices which is actually available in the system, which we can actually support in terms of, doing a lot of configurations to those unique requirements. And we have already done so. And I'm proud to say that we have already done the annualization processes, all the, payment, SSS, all the required reports, even the transition. We were there during the transition from the normal reports to digital reports. So even that we have actually seen. So definitely we can do quite a bit on that element. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask. If not, we can move, Dinali.
Yeah, see, maybe it'd be also nice to talk about the voice uh feature of Lexi.
So I had a very brand new experience there, gigs on the voice feature. So
Or
actually, before the voice feature, basically on the chat, basically when you chat now, basically we are on the beta version of voice. So we are currently doing English. So basically, I mean the same question, same thing I asked, like why did I get 2000 pesos paid for my transport? You don't need to really type in. So you can actually, what do you call?
talk to your phone.
Basically talk to the AI and say, so that's in English. So our voice feature is coming in, so very soon it will be available in languages as well. But currently typing is available in language. So we tried it in Manila. Basically, we actually asked someone to ask a question in Tagalog, worked perfectly. But when I went to Clark, what I realized was that dialect is different. So they use a different
Yes, it's
sort of a
different.
dialogue. So I just randomly asked one person to actually type in and see whether you can actually get the responses, and it started typing in
Yeah.
that own dialect. So basically, that's how things will change. So you don't need to be a stranger to Lexi. You'll be able to have real conversations, which is going on there.
Yeah. Oh, there's somebody from Clark.
Oh, we were there
Kapampangan.
yesterday. Yes.
Yeah, it's different from Tagalog. You can see, that's why I was saying this is the feature that I was saying earlier that got me excited, because like most of the tech averse people, one of the reasons that they're averse is because um their literacy level is not really high. So having to like do typing and that interface is kind of very um intimidating for them. So if they can just instead of typing, just say what they want, like I want to file a leave on this date and whatever, and then the system picks it up, then that just like solves a lot of problem for tech aversion, because it's just like talking to a person. It's just in your gadget or to the AI.
Thank you, Vic. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Gigs. Thank you, Riazi, for all your insights. I think the audience really interacted with us and we had a good crowd. So, now, as promised, now it's time for the giveaway. But for that, there are three simple steps to follow. So you can scan the QR code that you see on the screen and completely fill the feedback form. Please provide your valid email address and mobile notification so that we can ensure that you get the exact wrap gift. And yeah, that's all you have to do. Submit the form and you will be entered into the raffle draw. So I'll give you guys 5 minutes to scan and enter your details.
In the meantime, we can take any questions which can come up, right, Denali? Just like
Yeah,
Yes, yes,
continue.
you
Yes.
can.
And I
I
think
actually
we
saw a question here
go
that I wanted to respond to. Did you, from Marivic Albaitar, did you also practice the no bio, time in or out, no pay policy? How did you address that in your company? Yes. If they miss the time, log in, log out, they won't get paid for that day. So there's a feature in, uh, if for those who have a system, there should be a feature in your system that allows for correction. So if there is no login, log out, all the employee has to do is go into the correction uh, portion and then get approval from their immediate boss that and give the reason why they were not able to log in or log out so that that can be counted as a work day.
we call that manual in and out in people's HR. I mean, we can actually give that, but at the same time, I think I mean, if the employee has not really come on that day and it has no attendance and not applied a leave, they also have the option to apply for a leave. So
Yeah.
that yeah, if it's yeah, so
Or Denali, they're requesting if you can give a copy of the presentation.
presentation.
So all materials that we've used will be shared to them after the webinar. You guys
Denali is
need more
asking, yeah,
time?
no, they're asking if you can get the link version of the QR code.
Yeah, I'll drop it in chat.
So Gigs, I think you have a compliment. This discussion is something I can discuss during my compensation admin class at Mapu Writing. So there
That's
goes.
good. How about tagging of mandatory leave benefits in the system? You can, right?
Absolutely. Because I mean, anyway, this is a mandatory leaves are a practice for banks anyway. So what happens
Mm.
if they have to go on mandatory leave? So I mean, even we can actually create insights alerts to employees who like, doesn't have enough time to take that mandatory leave. So we can actually do a little bit of preventive actions as well. So yes.
Mhm.
We've shared the link on the chat. I'll give you guys one more minute.
Uh,
You contact Riazi.
yes, absolutely. Because what we can do is actually, I mean, when we do actually explore what's going on in your organization, we can definitely identify your current pain points as to what is stopping you from really digitalizing and probably see how we can actually make sure that our system is aligned exactly to support your digitalization journey. Because see, change management in no organization is the same. It will be quite different to each other. Some are, in a certain what do you call state of change. Some are not. So when we do that, we'll definitely make sure that you get that insights because see, employees will have incentives when it comes to using the system. It's not that they will not have incentives. So in order for them to earn those incentives, or I mean, I'm not talking about monetary incentives, but in terms of being connected to organization. I mean, even having access to that pay slip. So likewise, there's a lot of things they will actually benefit out of using a system properly. So likewise, we will actually support you when it comes to that transformation. Then it will definitely help you because I've seen how employees actually do their manual in and outs now. Like, they make sure that they do it on time. So earlier they didn't even bother, but I mean, sometimes even the supervisors don't approve. So we have something called an escalation process. So when we have those, you actually start seeing supervisors approving faster. Employees start building trust and they know that if they don't actually regularize their leave, they will have a no pay coming up on the next pay slip, which will be a problem. So a lot we can actually support on.
Okay, so we are now getting ready for the raffle draw. Just give us a minute. We're trying to load it into our raffle picker. Yes.
Denali, in Tagalog, it's called tambiolo.
Tabiolo. Okay. Okay. So we're now going to begin. We've loaded all your names. We don't have a spinner, but I'm going to give a countdown. Uh, all right. So on the count of three, 3, 2, 1. Yay! We have 10 lucky winners today. So we have winner number 1, Micah, winner number 2, Rose Andella, winner number 3, John Rainier, winner number 4, Shinalin. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation of your names. Winner number 5, we have Ramil. Winner number 6, Ramon. Winner number 7, Karen. Winner number 8, Sophie Shane. Winner number 9, Emery. Winner number 10, Christina. Right. So those are our winners. Thank you all for participating. We will have your gifts reach your inbox within the day. So please stay tuned. Right. With that, we come to an end for our session. Thank you, Riazi. Thank you, Gigs. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We hope we were able to give you some insights and help you out with your HR transformation journey. And yes, so we'll meet up soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone. Have a nice day.